Hello, everybody. You are here for episode 8 of The Secret to Creating Confident Kids and Young People. I've added the and young people after some discussions with Alma and others to be a bit more inclusive of young people of an older age bracket. So that's going to be the title going forward, or maybe we might choose something else similar. We can talk about that a bit later. We've got Alma with us today, who is an amazing individual. I am just so keen to find out a lot more about what you are working on at the moment. So I'm going to ask you, Alma, if you'd like to introduce yourself. For those who don't know you, I think most people in the East Midlands know you, but for those who are a bit further afield, can you explain, who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Trevor, for inviting me, first of all. My name is Alma Solarte-Tobón. I am in Nottingham and have been working for an organization called City Arts, which is community arts organization for nearly 18 years now. So it's a long time. A lot of my work has been in kind of working with young people mainly around emotional health and well-being. In the last few years now, though, I have had the honor to join the Storytelling Academy at Loughborough University as a research associate, and most recently now as a doctoral researcher.
That's amazing. Disclaimer, I've known Alma for quite a while. Probably from the early days I moved to Nottingham, and then I found out we actually didn't meet a long time earlier than that, because we were both students at the same university, although I really don't remember what was going on back then. I wonder why. But
I think you're a year above me, Trevor, so that's probably why
probably why.
We crossed paths probably on the corridors, but not met formally until a few years later after graduating.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, less said about university. That's what you want there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, So I'm quite familiar with your work in participatory arts. So I think we'll start off there. Just explain a little bit about your connection with City Arts and what that means in relation to what you do in the city.
Yeah, sure. So many years ago, after graduating, I was actually looking for different types of opportunities in the arts, and I was very lucky to be given the opportunity to volunteer in a project that was being led by a program called APT, which was part of City Arts at the time. And that's the first time that I guess I got introduced to this practice of participatory arts or community arts in a way that engaging young people in a very, very different way that I hadn't experienced before. I'd had tentatively thought that art was mainly through just education during that time, because as I said, I hadn't experienced it through that medium of community arts, participatory arts. So to me, it was really exciting because it just meant that young people were learning in such a different way and in a really safe space as well, through an array of different artists and art forms in a very playful way. And I could immediately see the benefits of this methodology of a kind of co-creation, I would call it, as it's called now, in terms of kind of developing work with both artists and young people at the same time. And I was lucky enough to then to be integrated more into the team and continued my career with them, and delivering lots of different projects around emotional health and well-being in particular, and the arts in not only just young people, but in adults as well. So I was delivering lots and lots of different projects in the city and in the county as well around that theme, arts and health.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that in recent times, mental health has been flagged up as an important thing where it's been overlooked for decades, but of recent times, people start to realize maybe we do need to actually look into this. Can you explain a little bit about maybe some of your projects that have links with mental health.
Yeah, sure. So as part of the City Arts projects, especially in the early days, we had really great links with mental health services. So a lot of the programs were referrals made to us by professionals who thought that the participants or clients would benefit from our practice. And I think the ACT program, particularly during that time, was born from that. It was born from a conversation by a social worker and the organization. This is before my time. I just joined with just beginning that process. And they saw the value of that. So it was just really great because professionals started seeing the value of the arts, in particular around mental health and well-being. And that kind of carried on for a very long time. There was a lot of investment, in particular, during that time, about 10 years ago, for arts and mental health projects in particular, or arts and health projects. There was big investment in that. Even schools taking that on as well. I remember doing a fantastic project targeted mental health in schools, in particular, the areas of Nottinghamshire. And going into schools, taking artists there and having consultation sessions with the young people, what they wanted to do, what approaches they wanted to do. And they're choosing the artist and in order to kind of deliver some really great outcomes for the young people. Times have changed, things do change. There's always different priorities throughout time. We've had a really great increase as well in awareness in terms of dementia in older people as well. So things go in circles. And as you say, there's a particular focus now on the mental health of young people, especially during this trial times of the couple of years that we've had around COVID-19 and lockdown. And I may have to go as there is the package. So if you could put some music on, I'll be one second.
That's fine. Alma did warn me that she might have to go and collect a parcel. So we're gonna. That's really good. I think it's quite an important point. The relationship between our mental health and the arts, and I think I'm gonna dig a bit deeper with Alma when she gets back. It's just the impact of arts itself on people. Now, I've run a few projects in the past, quite a few over the years, and the best projects have been the ones where participants have had the opportunity to just play, and that process of play, which I'll bring you back in, Alma. I was just thinking about some of the projects I've been involved in and how, in the past, just the best projects have been the ones where participants have just been able to play. And the process of playing has been quite therapeutic in relaxing them and just bringing out a kind of inner joy that they never knew they had. Because I mean, some of these participants were going through really tough times, but just being able to interact with something creative, it really had a huge impact on them.
Absolutely, and I think it's such an important part of something that, as we evolved into teenagers and adults, we do less of that. We do less of play. And I think that was really evident for young people how important that was in order to kind of give them a platform to just have fun. Because the way we're using the arts as a tool for engagement is kind of therapeutic, but it's not art therapy. It's not a medical model. It is, we know it works in a way because we've seen the impact of those young people and we've seen the change. And I am in touch with quite a few young people who've actually been through my projects now as adults, and they have told me how much they've valued that time with us. Really, the impact is really evident for just conversations I've had. And I'm in touch with a few young people who are now in their 30s, which is quite scary to think that I've been working with them for so long and now they're adults and they're in lives. But having had a conversation with, I think 2 years ago when I was, I can't remember exactly when, I was doing just a scope of delivery of arts awards, because one of the things we do as a qualification is deliver arts awards at City Arts, and it was it's the 15 years anniversary of the arts awards. And so I went back to some of those participants that I'd known for a while and I'm still in touch with, just to see how they felt the Arts Awards had helped them or the arts in general. And there was great stories. They're really, really, just being with the light, just being asked that in the first place, and let alone just acknowledging the fact that it really helped them in some way, and really appreciative of that as well. So you can see that even if it's just a small time they've had with you, it can make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I don't recall any projects like that we're talking 70s, 80s. So they probably existed, but they didn't exist where I lived. So
exactly.
any creative activities I was involved in was either instigated by myself or by the school. So, and the school was quite narrow with what they did. If I remember, in art class, we drew a twig for about 2 months. And then I just decided not to do art anymore. So that was the limit.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah, school art activity, draw this twig. That was it, nothing else. But obviously, creative pursuits are huge and massive. And I know that the breadth of things that you get involved in at City Arts is quite wide. Do you want to talk about, the wide, disciplines and activities and things like that, just so people understand exactly what City Arts is?
Absolutely. So City Arts Organization has been, actually, we're celebrating 45 years now as an organization, which is quite a great thing to know that an organization like this has been going for so long. And because we're not art form led, we deliver activities that are responsive to basically the need. So the need of the community. So I remember just being recently in a conversation with someone about what art forms that we do, or I have done in particular with all my projects. And it was really interesting because I was like trying to think, it's probably easier to list the ones I haven't done than the ones that I have done. And they were trying to think of things. So I was giving them a challenge to think of things as now I've done that. And I said to them, think the level of the stuff I've done with my young people is like breakdancing on stage on the forest ground. I've done that with the young people. And so this is the level of, and this is the exciting thing about the job as well, because I get to experience those things that the young people are experiencing by supporting them in that. So I can't say enough how many art forms there is, because there is so many that we can go. The list is endless, really, in creativity. But like I said, we try to be really responsive to need. But as an organization, we kind of tend to focus a lot on visual arts, as well as a lot of outdoor arts as well. So my colleagues deliver on that. But it is so open. Just yesterday, we were just discussing all the elements, things that are happening right now. And I've got an online exhibition of young people's work, which is showcasing young people around the world around arts and mental health, for example. My colleague's working on an outdoor program right now, going onto all the parks with lots of different puppetry activities and lots of other things. And then I've got another colleague who's actually working on a kind of blue to green program, and she's been doing watercolors and drumming with participants. So you can see the breadth of the work, So it really varies. I do love the job for that reason, for the variation and the responsiveness. I think throughout, we've always been kind of working in consultation with the community groups that we've worked with as well. So that's the approach that we really take, is seeing what people want to do and trying to bring that. At the moment, we're launching an exhibition as well, part of the residence program that my colleagues running, and supporting creatives. So it's not supporting community, but supporting the creative community. So that a lot of not grants, but funds got given to some artists to just try things out and do things. So they've been really different as well. The first one was a digital showcase, and now is an exhibition on space around, and I can't say the name, so apologies, but it's the Ukrainian art of egg painting. There is a particular name for that, and I can't say it, so apologies. So you can see the variation. It's really, really wide open. And that's what's quite exciting for us, because then we can allow the young people to experience many, many things and open the world to things that they wouldn't have experienced in education, for example.
Definitely. Yeah, the breadth of things beyond drawing twigs, which is really important. Another kind of showcase where City Arts is always quite prominent every year is the yearly carnival, and we always see something from City Arts in there, and it's always nice to see, going through the city. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my colleague Alison, who leads on the kind of outdoor arts program, has been delivering kind of that program for many years, and including things at Carnival. We haven't done for a few years now, but because obviously it's been locked down. But I think that's really, really important for us, and making it accessible. That's something that's really, really important to us. So I know my colleague's been working on not only at City Arts, but in her own time, in creating some mobility scooters, puppets, carnival puppets, that they're the Flamingo Project. If you go on Facebook and look that up, you'll see that they were actually presented, and I helped her with this, at the Jubilee. So they were actually showcased at that celebration. Wow. So, but it's about engaging that community that wouldn't normally be able to take part in parades. So those who may have some kind of mobility issues, or to enable them to have a scooter and be on the road with the rest of the people. And I think that's the ethos of our organization, is that kind of inclusiveness, to make sure that no one gets left behind in one way or another, and try to anyway, as much as possible. Obviously, as any organization, we are funded dependent, so we try our best to kind of accommodate when we can.
Now, I'm really quite interested to find out a bit more about what you're doing now. I know you spend quite a bit of time at Loughborough University now, and that you're doing doctoral studies there in digital storytelling. Do you want to let's find out a little bit about what juicy stuff you're actually working on at this moment in time?
So this is a surprise to me, as many others, is how we're doing a doctoral research now. Actually, I hadn't expected it. Wasn't on my thinking process. I was thinking maybe doing a further education in terms of master degree or something like that. But an opportunity came my way, and it was just too good to not apply for it. And it was looking at the emotional literacy with young people and storytelling. And that's something, because I've been working so long, for so many years, and knowing that there's a really important thing of telling your story and listening to other people's stories. And I think that's, to me, is really, really the key factor on why I wanted to do this. Because I kind of know that the arts projects that I do work. In fact, there's a lot of evidence around that. There's a lot of research in terms of how arts and health programs are really beneficial for the communities and people, including young people. But the digital storytelling, it was just a way of further exploration, is telling your own story. And being heard, it was quite a thing, for me, especially growing up. And my research is around, because it has to be really particular studies. So what I was thinking in particular was a study around emotional literacy with young people with English as a second language. And the reason for that was because I knew what it was like for me growing up as I came to this country back in the 80s, and not understanding what emotional health and well-being was. It wasn't really talked about. There's a lot of stigma attached to that, and also a lot of stigma attached to that with different minority groups in the country. So I felt that there was a really good case for research around this. I had a look at what's available out there, and there's not much study on ethnic minorities in the UK around emotional health and well-being. There is some, but in particular around how the arts benefits them in one way or on another. So I'm just really curious to find how that kind of cohort of young people, especially now, are doing, just based on my own experience as well, just to see the differences and see if they're connected more with mental health services, or if not, or if is the narrative being heard in particular by the powers that be, you know, whether it's education, mental, you know, any other professionals. So, and one thing that I just occurred to me just most recently is actually looking at the emotional literacy union of young Latin Americans in this country, because we're really a real minority. And just recently, we've only just been included in the census, in the UK census, as a minority group. So it wasn't in the 2011 census, the last census, but it's just most recently been included. So you can now tick Latin American as an ethnic minority. So before, there is not real statistics of how many actual Latin Americans are in the UK, because many don't know what form to fill, because Latin Americans have a really vast range of different ethnicities as well. So it's a really interesting one to see in the next census how many there are in this country, and how a little bit more reflective on the actual numbers. So, and also for me, because I don't have much of a connection with Latin Americans in this country. I came at a very young age, and I got really fully integrated with the English culture, and you know, most of my friends and you know are English, so I don't have many Latin American friends. So it's a way for me to reconnect also with that community. So it's a part-time study, so it's going to be a long journey for me. I've just started my journey. Yes, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it, and I've just started out. I've only started in October, so I'm really keen to carry on with that. So the Latin American community mainly live in London, so it'd be interesting to map out actually the Latin American in this Midlands, because definitely no study has been done on that in this area. So I really like to see what comes out from that.
Yeah, I think it'll be quite fascinating. I mean, for a very short amount of time back in the days when I was involved in music, I was aware of a huge Brazilian community in London. And I kind of, you know, followed them a little bit because the crossover in music and that was interesting. But obviously I stopped that many years ago. There would obviously be lots of different specific groups there as well, doing amazing things. So I'm really keen to find out, you know, the kind of work that comes out of this.
Yeah,
obviously, like you said.
Absolutely, and there are some communities that are operating in different areas. I know the Brazilian community is quite prominent. There is an organization in Stanton Market who are, you know, Brazilian-led organization, and they do fantastic work, including Carnival and Bateria and many other things in between. So there are pockets, but not necessarily. I don't know of any yet that are actually working with young people like we do around mental health and well-being. There's maybe a lot of celebratory stuff, but as far as I haven't come across them myself. So I'm looking forward to coming across those organizations that are engaging young Latin Americans, whether it's just one or two, but also more. I have heard some in Nottingham that are engaging some.
Okay. That brings me on to the digital storytelling part of your research. Obviously early days, so I don't you don't have to give away anything that you haven't tested yet or whatever.
No,
what's interesting at the moment? What are you finding is interesting in your research?
Well, at the moment, because I haven't started, I'm going through ethics approval at the moment, so I'm just writing that up in order to be able to start getting that enable me to go and, you know, to talk to people and ask questions and do digital storytelling with them. But so that's the exciting part that's coming up in the next couple of years, being able to go to communities and actually start getting their stories to enable me to just get an overall picture around their mental health and well-being. So kind of mapping out that. And the first phase, what I wanted to do is not just with young people, but with different age groups, just to see what it was like for them, either coming into the country first or being second generation, or just to kind of get a feel of kind of people's stories around being Latin American in this country. Then that would hopefully develop into then getting really more stories around emotional health and well-being with a particular age group. That has to be decided as well yet. So I need to identify who they are first in order to kind of bring now what age group or young people I'll be talking to. So that's the exciting bit, is not knowing what's going to happen and just developing further and further coming up. But what has been great as part of the Storytelling Academy is that before I started my PhD, I started working as a associate researcher for them. So in a different projects, in particular one called PARAMO Paraguas, that was based in Colombia, which was really exciting for me. The first time that I kind of got involved in this project, I was a little bit kind of apprehensive because it was first time being a research associate, so I wasn't too sure what the expectation was. It was a scientific-based research, which also scared me a little bit because it's not my field. But what I found, there was lots of relevant skills I had in order to be able to manage that project, and it has been an absolute delight working on a project because I learned so much, and it's been all quite remotely. So it brought a lot of the skills that I had as a community, in the community arts world that I work with, to then actually develop that methodology, help with that methodology delivery in Colombia. So recruiting correspondents there to actually go on the ground, especially because it all happened during lockdown. So I was managing all this remotely with a colleague in America, Angela, and we're both kind of managing this project and talking to the correspondents and trying for them to get stories from these community groups in the Paramo region in Colombia. And from that, I think that's where my interest specifically started about the Latin American community, because just hearing the stories from my own country and learning about my country that I hadn't known before, especially an area that I haven't been to before, and just hearing this really rich and vibrant stories about how they live there and what they do there, because the two projects were very different. Paramo was based around flora and fauna, and the other Paramo was based around water. So you get a lot of stories around this, a lot of mythological stories, a lot of stories about getting lost in the Paramo. They were just so enriched. We had 400 stories in the end, which we're still editing and translating and transcribing, so a lot of stories. But I think that also gave me the appetite to start thinking about my own culture and particularly looking at Latin Americans for communities here. So I'm really looking forward to bringing a little bit of that I did during that time with those projects to my own practice in my research now.
Is there a memory from that time, or maybe one of this? I mean, I'm aware, obviously, this is a project that you might not be able to talk about, but is there something that you can talk about and share, something that you discovered when you were there or when you were involved in the materials?
The one for the Paramo Paraguas project, you mean?
Yeah, but if you can't talk about that in particular, then it's
that's fine.
Outside of that. Okay.
No, that's fine. We started disseminating some of the stories already, so we've held a few conferences. So I'm happy to talk about those. I mean, there's some fantastic stories that of just it's kind of in relation to how important the outdoors is for people as well, because it's so important in the work I do at City Arts as well. Is engagement in arts and the outdoors. We do a lot of that. And I just remember one story of someone in the 20s. I can't quite remember the age. Like I said, it's 400 stories, so it's really hard to remember particular details. But one of the stories of this young person not having a great time at school and being really scared of telling the parents about having bad grades at school, and trying to avoid a conversation or going to tell them about this. And apologies because there's another package has just arrived. So can I hold that for the moment? I do apologize.
That's okay. It's not an issue. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I think we'll talk a bit more about storytelling, the process, and find out a bit more about those rich stories when Alma comes back. You may know, those of you who know me, you know that I'm quite keen and interested in anything to do with storytelling. I think it's quite fascinating just to find out how other people live and discover other cultures and just interesting things. See, I did a bit of an interlude there. I kind of waffled for a little bit just till you came back. Have you got your audio?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry about everybody.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the stories you were mentioning.
Yeah. So when, like I mentioned, so this young person being quite scared about going home, and then decided to take the long route around the PARAMO region where he walks quite daily, but at this point, taking a dog for a walk, actually then taking a breath and taking a moment to look beyond himself and just seeing the vastness of that area and how the vastness and the beauty of what it is to be outdoors, especially in the PARAMO region. It's some beautiful landscapes, and how much that affected him in terms of his well-being. And he started taking photographs, and from that developed a photography project that then kind of led him to put it all online, and people were like really, really interested in all the photographs that he was taking. And he opened another website, another page in order to share his photos and how important that was for his well-being. Just the vastness and taking a moment of breath in the PARAMO. And I kind of resonated with that because he kind of took an art form and a moment and reflecting that his mental health and well-being benefited from that, really benefited well. And he didn't feel so scared of going to his parents and telling him he failed. And, that didn't matter anymore. And that sometimes is really key, those little things, those kind of stories like that, a researcher on scientific data is not going to capture that. It's not going to capture the how important this area is for people, unless you hear the story, unless you hear that moment of someone telling you, this saved me, this was actually something that was just extraordinary for me at the time. So I think that's why storytelling is so important, because it shares that, and it's shared knowledge as well. The amount of stories that I've had about indigenous cultures and the beliefs in terms of how the water management and how if you did certain things, something would happen. It's just really, really interesting. Or traditional things, like one story was telling of this way of making soup, which is using fermented potatoes, which is so interesting. Never heard of it before. But if this is not shared, how is that knowledge transferred? For generations to know later on is that this amazing potato soup that's so good for you, using fermented potatoes that are going to tell you how they're done because it's so particular. They put in a sack in a stream, which is the mountain stream, clearest water possible, on the flowing stream with something really dark. So they put them in the water in the darkness for months, for like 3 months, and then taken out, and then soup created from that. How extraordinary is that? Yeah. So hearing the stories, it was like, for me, it was like, this matters. This does matter. A scientist can't get that data, like I mentioned earlier. It's a very difficult way to kind of add value to that. So the reason for these projects and those kind of those collaborations in those scientific projects, that a lot of them had to use an art form, was for that reason, is to kind of finding out, that there's a balance between the both, that they you can get a lot out from having not only just look at science, but also looking at art in a way, because it gives value to the actual community that live there. It tells a wider story of people who live there. And I think that's, in part what the digital storytelling is just giving people that voice in order to kind of share that experience, because we can tick boxes very easily. I can tell you my diagnosis, and we can judge it against a list and so forth. But everybody's experiences are different. And if we don't hear those differences, then we don't have an overall picture of us as human beings. So that's why they're important.
Yeah, I think it's quite important to remember. I mean, we're in a very different, we live in a very different world, a very different society now. That's the pace is a lot faster, and maybe we don't take the time to actually think, take a step back and observe the world from a different perspective. Maybe we don't, it's really quite dangerous. Maybe we're not telling stories anymore. I mean, we consume a lot. We consume the latest box set on TV, or the latest film, or the latest whatever, but maybe we're not actually telling and expressing our own stories. And that's quite a dangerous thing, because what's going to happen in future generations, they're not really going to know about us. I mean, they might know, about Made in Chelsea, but they won't really know about us, and that's scary. So I'm actually really, really keen to find out more about your project, and I will be following you over the years to find out how this progresses, because I see the importance of it.
And you can get a flavor of the project itself, because my project has been attached to a project that has been done recently called What's Up with Everyone. And it was a collaborative research project with the Nottingham University, Institute of Mental Health, and Loughborough University, and other partners as well. They included Alma Animations, and the key was to actually make sure that they got stories from young people. The Mental Health Foundation was also key partner in that, and to get lots of stories and information from young people. And actually, you'd be surprised, Trevor, how actually wise young people are in terms of mental health and well-being. They are more keyed up, definitely, than I remember being at my age when I was younger. So, and I think that's because there's more talk about it. We are talking more about it. I think people are more aware of it. And that's a good thing. So at least that's being shared, whether, not necessarily the kind of, there's still the stigma, definitely, but there is definitely a lot more understanding about it. And the stories that the young people shared allowed the team to then create some amazing animations in order to help with emotional literacy of young people. So if you look up What's Up with Everybody on the website, it gives you a little bit more information about the project and some beautiful animations that got done with the voices of the kind of co-creation model that we normally use at City Arts and community arts practices. They used it there at Alma Animations, and they created this amazing short videos which got released earlier this year. So, and they're as a tool now, they're a resource for young people to see, and they're being used, widely. So my projects kind of come from that beginning of studies. There's a few of us PhD students who are continuing that work, that kind of legacy, I guess, around emotional literacy and storytelling. And we hope to continue with that. I think the only one part-time, so I've got the longest journey of them all. So we shall see where that takes me. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking the time frame of. I think you might find that the fact that you're doing it part-time and you've got a longer period in which to collect and digest the information might actually be a benefit rather than something that's a negative. I think that's a plus.
Absolutely, because you can go, is the kind of thing that sometimes that projects don't allow you to do longevity studies. You can't, you can talk to someone or do a project this moment in time, but 5 years time, they're a completely different person. a young person who's 13 is very different to an 18-year-old person of themselves. So it'll be really interesting to kind of perhaps see that as well as a study, you know, how different they are from one point in their time to another point in their time.
Definitely. Do you have some links? You probably can't type it in the chat. We tried it last time, it didn't work. I'll type it in the chat. So what was the project you mentioned? What's up with everyone, is it?
What's up with everyone? What's up with everybody, sorry. What's up with everybody?
What's up with everybody.com, is that all?
I can find it. Yeah. Once the project went live, I can actually look for the links properly and put them on the posts if need be. So I'm happy to do that, Trevor, and share that with everybody. But it just gives you a flavour of the kind of things and that we're doing. Also, the Storytelling Academy's got their own website within Loughborough University, so you can look them up and look at all the vast array of projects that they're involved in around storytelling. In particular, obviously, digital applied storytelling. City Arts as well, if you want to check us out there as well. So, yeah, I wear many hats in many days throughout the day.
Definitely. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm very familiar with City Arts. I'm not very familiar with some of the other ones that you mentioned. The Storytelling Academy, that's something that is new to me, so I'm definitely going to be researching that and finding out all the amazing stuff that you've been involved in. So that's really a good thing to find out. And the other one, I probably spelled it wrong, but let's have a look. What's Up with Everybody, a project with young people in Ardman, and I'm sure there's many other people I haven't mentioned there. That's just one of many. I know it's a consortium, it's not just a one company project. I totally understand that.
Yeah,
so I just was typing as quickly as I could.
Absolutely.
So I'll make sure that we put all the links in the replay, so that when it's sent out, when this recording is sent out again to people, they can follow those links and find out all the individual bits and bobs. So a couple of things to round off. Let's just take that one off the screen. I'm interested to find out any case study that you want to talk about directly linked to a young person that you find interesting. Either the project's interesting or maybe the experience the young person went through is interesting. That could either be the work that you've done in City Arts or somewhere else, or something you're working on now. I'm quite happy, whatever case study. You don't have to mention names, just, you know.
No, that's fine. Yeah. I think I always go back to one particularly young person who I came across for one of my projects, which is the Express Yourself project in particular, who worked with 13 to 17-year-olds. And they came to one of the projects, and I'm just very pleased to say that they're absolutely brilliant adults now, and our facilitators for City Arts projects have worked with us and have made a career of the arts. And that was something that, you know, they have expressed that being part of their project helped them make those choices going into the arts as a career, and how much has helped them as well throughout their life. So that's definitely something that I have really fondness for them as well. They become a friend now that, you know, that they're older, and we're quite supportive of each other as a team in that way. So that's, to me, you know, that's what it's all about in that sense, is helping someone else through their life and seeing the joy that they're doing something that they love. So that's kind of someone that I definitely always have complete value, and, you know, it's all because of them. You know, they chose that journey and took that journey, and we just helped them along the way, and that's an amazing thing. And again, within the Loughborough work, just having had worked with the young correspondents in Colombia, something that they hadn't done before in terms of digital storytelling. Most of the young correspondents that we're working with are, again, biology students at university, or, kind of science-based research degree studies. So the fact that they were finding it really interesting, finding out about their own land, their own people, their own stories from that was really enriching for them. They connected a lot more with the things around them. So that was something that's really, really, really amazing too.
Okay, I have to ask this question now. It's the name of the show. And I know it's an impossible question to answer, but have a go anyway. So what, in your opinion, is the secret to creating confident kids and young people?
I think the secret is to listen. I think it's just to listen, just to kind of enable the voice to be heard, and just give them time to flourish. I think that's the secret.
Thank you, Alma. It's been amazing having you on the show today. I'm fascinated with what you do. I'm definitely going to be checking out the links and following your research project over the next, reckon, 5 years?
Yeah, probably.
6 years?
6 years.
10, 20 years? I think it's normally about 5 years, isn't it? I think.
6 years for me. Yeah, so I'm just nearly finishing my first year, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's a long journey, but what an amazing journey. And I'm sure you're going to have many fascinating stories to tell, so I'll definitely have you back on the show to tell me every year. Come back every year.
Yeah, I'm really happy to do so. Yeah.
That'd be brilliant. Okay, Alma, this has been amazing. Please stay on after I finish the show. So you've been watching The Secret to Creating Confident Kids and Young People. I will update that to make sure it says that, with the amazing Alma. I will not pronounce your surname because I always find it quite difficult, and I'm live, so I'll do that in person. Can you just say your surname again? Sorry.
Solarte-Tobón.
Yeah, that's right. My tongue doesn't do that yet, but I will practice. So next time you're on the show, I will amaze everybody. Yes. But anyway, not at the moment, not today. It's been amazing. Thank you for tuning in. This is going to be on replay. It will get sent out probably an hour or so after the show processes. You can find it on LinkedIn, you can find it on Facebook, and of course, the archive, the Evergreen archive, is on YouTube. Links will be provided either below, or they'll be provided in the replays when they're sent out. Thank you for watching. I value your time. It's been amazing. And have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Goodbye.